Good evening, Sussex Squad World Nation. We're back.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday, everyone.
We finally able to be in the same room and actually get back to business.
Yeah, is it? We
Get
got Lydia,
back.
Lydia Washington first in the chat. Hi, Lydia.
Hi, Lydia.
Joyce Anderson, Novi D. We missed you all.
That's
Absolutely.
right, our co-star. How are you guys doing?
Co-stars. I think they're the stars. We're just, here.
We facilitate.
Co-host, I meant to say.
But it has been a minute. How we know that there's a lot on your plate, Lady Sussex. Still don't know how you managed to handle all of it, and that's probably part of the reason why it's been a minute. But how are you?
How am I doing? I'm not sure. Oh my God, what's going on with the mic? Sorry about that.
It's probably because you're hitting it.
Well, it's been a minute because for several reasons. Obviously, I had a lot going on, and it had become a little bit very difficult to stay on schedule, try to do the show. And then we thought we were going to be able to do it one Sunday. And then we actually sent a notice out that we'll be on, and situation that happened, we couldn't get on. And I have been very, very emotional, I think, the past couple of weeks as well. And I think that, you know what, it would have been very difficult to do a show with all that emotion. And because you know me, you never know. I don't hide my emotion, and I don't want it to come out in a way that I don't attend it to. And I certainly don't think many of people come in listening to us just to listen to me rambling about whatever that causing me pain and anguish. So yeah, so it's been a very, very difficult time. There's a lot of great things happening, but there's a lot things that's happening. It's concerning, and so it's all coming all at one time. And so try to find the balance, and doing what I do, especially caring for my mom. And so it has been very difficult. And also one of the things that had started happening, um, when you have a moment to breathe and to shut down the noise, then you started reflecting on what really matter, what is really, why you doing this, certainly now that what it feels like the successes are in a much better space. Do you need to continue doing this? And I think I had my question answered right away. Yes, you do. You have to continue doing this. And because again, I mean, you just see what just happened, very recently, just a couple of days ago with the court. But there's a lot of concern that I had. How do you cover, the Sussexes? Because they are dealing with different issues, different things that's happening. And so how do you do that and do that well and responsible, especially when you have so much going and throwing at you? So I wanted you to find out how to do that. And I think I have a better understanding now that I didn't have before, and a purpose and a reason. And so we are going to get into all of it. And I think what is the front here is the so-called whether or not Harry had lost his battle of trying to get security. And yes, maybe he did, but in court of opinions, I think he win. And I think he did an incredible job. And so do Megan Sussex, our princess, early last week now, with her interview that she had gave podcast interview, which I thought was amazing. And I think listening to everybody and listening to the Sussex squads, and it's almost feel like the joy we had feel like it's I wouldn't say take away, but kind of like they needed people needed to put a dent on that, and it was not helpful. Some of that dent come from people that who call themselves supporter of the Sussexes. So I needed to have a better understanding because I'm one of those people that will take things very personal. And I need to find a way to find the fun, the joy, and not to overly, I think well Sussex say that many times. You can't ever be more mad, more pissed off than Harry and Meghan that who really sort of going through it in a way that nobody can really ever really understand. So it was all that. But we're back now. And hopefully we can have better time coming on because today was a little bit very difficult. I didn't even know that I was going to be able to do it. And also last week we were dealing with the Pope passing. And me, I grew up Catholic. My mother, it's a very, very, Catholic, and I have, big association with the Catholic Church. And because she grew up in a convent, and although she not fully comprehend the fact that the post is passing, but I think she gets it somewhat. I was able to talk to her, explain to her. We sort of watched the funeral together. I don't know how much she take it in or not. That was quite emotional. So it would have been very difficult to come back from that because I needed time to reflect, on so many things. But nevertheless, I'm still a part of the family. I've been listening and to everyone, specifically my boy, my brother from another mother, Baron. You guys know how I feel about him, so I've never stopped listening and address. I need to deal with my own emotion.
Well, you were
about
actually listening to
everything.
him. Was it maybe a couple days ago and caught a piece of it in passing? Actually, I think it was him reiterating something, a common through line that both of you as well as Baron and a number of other squatties continue to reiterate is that when you need to take time for your mental health,
Correct.
step away from
Correct.
social media, do that because it will still be here when you come back.
Yeah,
So do
because
that.
and it's absolutely true because I was consuming so much, sort of media content, like, and it's in every places for my own research, for the work that I do here with Well Sussex, and as well everything else in between. So after a while, it just started getting to you. So try to make sure that you put everything in perspective. Hasn't been easy, but I think I needed it to do that.
I know you've only also mentioned even just a small fraction. So don't Charles and I don't know how you continue to do what you do, but cheers to you for putting on the courageous face and pressing forward.
Well, thank you for that. But I think this is truly, really personal. I would love to say it's all only about Harry and Meghan, but I think what Harry and Meghan have done is reveal what many of us, deal with on a daily basis. And so the fact that, what their life, what they do, and highlighting the problems in the world stage for everyone to see, it makes it more the reason why that it is important. It's not just their problem; it's all of our problems.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, I mean, we're all a community, right?
Right.
So I think you just have to respect and understand that, everyone feels that kind of pressure. Everyone feels that their own circumstances. And at the same time, those are also shared. So you have to just kind of respect that and understand kind of what you yourself have to put out there and then realize how that impacts everyone else and then vice versa.
That's right.
So I did want to quickly say hello to quite a few folks, and then also congratulations and thank you to Church Nellie, who is also in the chat. So
Oh,
we haven't had a chance to
amazing.
talk to her for a while, but also she's been a member for 8 months. So that is
It
amazing.
just
Thank you
quick
so
time
much.
passed.
Yeah,
Thank you
really.
so much, Chachinali. You know,
Hmm.
I just actually earlier I was listening to I think um Duchess of Success, and so she was on, and she give her like a sort of a shout out, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna see
Yeah,
hopefully if she's gonna be
that's right.
on
So
the
we
one.
also have a couple of our other mainstays are also here. So Karen Warner, hello. Novi
Yes,
D.
hello.
Yep. Lady P. Lydia Washington. We already said Jedi Lady. Thank you so much.
Thank
We
you,
have
guys.
Com. As I mentioned, Sylvia Fielder. I think I got
Oh,
everybody.
thank you for waiting for us. So
Sylvia actually said that
yes,
she's been concerned about us and that she's very glad to hear us. So thank you for
Yes.
that
that's
concern
right.
to
That's right.
everyone, and we did
Well,
miss you all.
Yes. And
yes, we
Carolina
do.
Ramirez. So
Yeah,
that
my
was the last
mom
one.
is doing okay. Not great, but not bad as well. So
She's hanging in there.
she's hanging in there. Yes. So should we get the service start?
We can
By
start rolling.
see what's going on, what's been, because there's so much have happened.
There's a lot.
It's like,
There's a lot that we have actually
there's so
missed,
much.
and obviously there's old news now because we've had to be off air for a little bit.
That's right.
But there's still a lot happening out there.
Oh my God. So let's
So
get
if we
to
want,
it.
we can just dive right on in. So we
That's
have
right.
the Church Nelly report. What's up? What's up? So with that, actually, the first I think is obviously kind of the biggest news and what's been happening most recently, which is obviously Prince Harry, unfortunately losing his critical court case about his restored UK security. So I think I mean, even though the fact has actually been very, very recent, I think even yesterday, I think the whole thing kind of broke, but it's a big deal. So this is what he actually himself said is the one that actually mattered the most to him.
Mm.
And so I'll just read you a very quick article about it, or not even, just a synopsis of an article from People magazine, just in terms of how they reported against it, because I think they do a fairly good job about how they represent things. So, but Prince Harry lost his high-stakes appeal to reinstate his state-funded UK security, which he says was unjustly revoked after he stepped back from his royal duties and relocated to the United States in 2020. The judge actually dismissed the appeal on Friday, May 2nd, adding that the two other judges that were also in cahoots, I suppose, also agreed with that opinion. So delivering the verdict, the Duke was, in effect, stepping in and out of the cohort of the protection provided by RAVAC, which is the government's Royal and VIP Executive Committee. And outside of the UK, he was outside the cohort. And when he was in the UK, his security would be considered as an appropriate depending on the circumstances. And it was impossible, I said in my judgment, to say that this reasoning was illogical or inappropriate. Indeed, it seemed sensible. And this is obviously what the judge himself had said of his own ruling. So Prince Harry himself, in his part, actually described the legal battle as the fight for his life. And then this actually stems from a February 2024 case that actually he lost again in the RAVAC's decision to downgrade his security, which he then appealed, this is the appeal. So that's what it's all about. And then said that they were cautiously optimistic going into the case. But I think actually if there was such a thing as kind of a silver lining, I think that the Duke had a chance through this, just through common disclosure, to get some closure for himself in terms of what actually happened, who actually said what, and then how it actually transpired. So I think there was a lot of that actually happened. And so, unfortunately, he said his worst fears has actually been confirmed by the whole legal disclosure, and it makes him incredibly sad. Though he has juggled multiple court cases and won most of them, actually all of them, against the British tabloid press, it was actually really what he thought was the most crucial one, obviously for him and his family as it revolved around their security. So, and in response to that, Meghan actually posted just yesterday an Instagram photo of Harry and their children walking through. It was a very nice black and white photograph that,
Yeah.
Anyway, so it was just nice. So yeah, so we have that, and that's just kind of what's going on there. Royal Sussex actually just piped in and actually gave us and contributed $10. So thank you so much, Baron.
Oh,
We really
thank
appreciate
you.
it. And he said, "Glad
My
y'all are
brother.
back."
Yes.
So yes,
Thank
really
you,
appreciate that,
thank you
Baron.
A
so much.
celebrity in the chat.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
But super appreciate you being here, Baron. And then again, I guess the next little bit of news. Why you give me the eyeball?
I'm not.
You
I'm
give me
just
serious
listening.
eyeball.
I'm just listening. We got a big show.
We
so,
do,
yes.
we do. So Meghan Markle also goes makeup
Make it
free.
Sussex.
I'm sorry. It's from the article. You're right. I should correct that. Meghan Sussex goes makeup free in sweats and sneakers for her first ever podcast interview that she did with her friend Jamie Kern Lima.
Correct. It was an amazing and a must, and we're going to talk all about that.
Okay,
we're gonna
so we
get
can
on to-
keep it
to
moving then.
Keep moving, yeah, because it is,
Keep it moving.
it is very important.
But I will say though, it was actually makeup free, and she looked. You would never know that she had no makeup on. I was just stunned. She's stunning.
beautiful.
She really
Yes.
is. But I was like, wow, like she
And
doesn't even
glowing.
she doesn't even need makeup. It's pretty amazing. And then also just want to do a quick update on the podcast, on her podcast, The Confessions of a Female Founder.
Which I listen in believe it's
Every week,
Tuesday,
right?
Every
Yep.
week,
Mhm.
yeah. Mhm.
So it is still doing great. It's actually, after 4 episodes, it's still in the top 40 business podcasts in the entire country.
Yeah.
So doing fantastic. And so far, she's actually interviewed Bumble's Whitney Wolf, Girls Who Code's Rashima Shenjuri. I'm sure I butchered that.
Especially girls who code. It's something that, as a girl who code, I think is a very, very important thing. I hope people learn about coding, because that is going to be moving forward job of the future. So
Absolutely.
ahead.
Absolutely. Then you have Highbrow Hippies, Katie Lee, which was her 3rd interview. And then her most recent one is actually the same, basically a very dear friend of hers, apparently, who she actually conducted her interview on her own podcast. She had on her podcast,
That's
who is actually the co-founder of It's Cosmetics, Jamie Kern Lima. Who
I
just
will
mentioned.
say we have listened to the Duchess in many interviews. We have listening to her, and Oprah Winfrey, the interview that she had gave. I think this particularly one, it's one that that need to be examined. It's probably the most important interview. As relaxing, there was so much symbolism about that particularly interview, and it needed it to happen. And I truly believe there was a correlation between the interview that she gave her and the interview Harry gave to BBC, and how important those 2 interviews going to go down in history in terms of document not only what happened, but who our Duchess she really is, and how important it is for her to have show herself not just vulnerable without makeup. There is something about that, to seeing her, the real her, who she is, who many people are trying to hurt. See that person as a mother, see her as a woman, see her as a human being, and for her to be able to show herself, her vulnerability, everything that makes her who she is, not just who they've been telling us that she is, or try to tell us, this person that, many of us know that is not her. And there was reason and purpose behind everything that she's saying. And I think when you listen to Harry interview, do you understand how important that it was? Even going as far as sort of, writing emails for her kids, to hopefully one day they know who their mother truly is, and how much their mother loves them. And you listen to Harry interview, it makes you understand this is 2 couple that's working together, who understand the ad against them and what they are fighting. And regardless how we may feel in prayer and everything that, we do, things happen. And so they must be prepared. And it's tough and very difficult to say this, but that is the truth. They understand the battle they are fighting, and they have to make certain moves. They have to do certain things. They have to not just only prepare themselves, but putting on a record for everyone to hopefully that we would not need, or the how would I say, their kids, or would not need to hear from someone telling us who they are. They can speak for themselves, owning their voice, creating record. I think it was the most important interview they both could have given. And so we're gonna get on all that. We're gonna get on that, specifically Harry interview. I think it was so amazing to listen to him telling his own truth. And again, what matters to him, which is the truth, and document that, force it to be on record. And that in itself is a win to me. So let's move right along.
Sure. The one thing I will actually say, just on my own personal opinion, is that for the interview that Megan had with Jamie Lee,
which all three of us watched together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So what I always found really interesting is how she and her family, I suppose, and those who know her, how she reacts out of the news as it comes out. And because like she's just as blown away as everyone else, because she's like, I don't, because she doesn't know what they're talking about. It's just so fabricated that she was just, that she herself just gets caught unaware of all the craziness around her, because it's just so out there.
Right.
And it was just an interesting, I was always very curious about how she handles those kinds of things.
But I think for me, I think when you looked at how this type of news, this type constant every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, someone is that you see how that affects us. And it's not really directly happening to us, or at least some of us, at least not like that. You can see, could you imagine if she was consuming that? I mean, I just tell you guys that, that I needed to take a break. I needed to disconnect just because I was consuming so much. So could you imagine? I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
So I think it was right decision for her sanity, for her to be able to raise these two incredible kids, but not seeing the mother that constantly stressed and depressed and everything, but actually seeing her. So I think it's probably the most important and wise decision she could have ever made for herself and her family.
Yeah, and
her marriage.
And maybe we're getting ahead of it, but that's fine. We don't have to follow the linear path. We can be a bit circuitous. But to that interview specifically, what struck me was all of the some of the symbolism I know you mentioned already, Lady Sussex, and you're going to get into more, and the importance of all of that, and the authentic self, seeing Megan as she is. But even beyond the authenticity, what really struck me, what I saw, especially in the second half of the interview, with some of the questions that she was asked and answered in terms of like her future, her life, was just an incredible amount of courage to be able to go and do that interview in the first place,
mm-hmm.
and to go and be vulnerable, and you can take she had to have taken a position of not trying to see all of the headlines and all of the nonsense in the press for her own sanity, like you mentioned. But even with that, there's still no escaping it fully.
That's right.
And so she knows the probably some of the deepest extents of where it can go, and despite that knowledge, to still have the courage to go and be vulnerable like that is what really, really struck me.
Yeah. So, but we're gonna get in on all that. So let's move forward.
There's still some more here. So 2 more, as a matter of fact. So the next actually is Meghan was announced to be a part of Time 100 Summit.
Ugh,
And actually
that was
speaking there
amazing.
again, which is
That was
actually
amazing.
that occurred on April 23rd.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, just because, one, obviously she was in it, but during the interview that she had with Time CEO Jessica Sibley, she was just talking about, obviously, her podcast and the Confessions of a Female Founder. Was talking about the entire process and obviously who she's been interviewing and how she's really had a chance to really kind of take in and also kind of share her own story about being a founder. But she was also just, I think, just even more upfront of where she is on her own life. And notably, she was actually, not only was she in Time 100 for this year, but she was also in 2021 as well as 2018 as part of being Time's most influential people.
Absolutely.
And said that actually business success is actually not what really is the primary driver for her, and not necessarily what actually makes her happy. It's actually her family, her partner and husband, Prince Harry, who's been so supportive, and her 2 kids. And she beamed that actually that Archie's about to lose his first tooth. So she wanted to rush back to make sure that he can actually catch that.
I hope she had a chance to see it.
And I hope she did see it.
Yeah.
Did you guys do the doorknob thing for yours?
Doorknob?
Yeah, the doorknob for your teeth.
Oh, yeah.
What is what is that?
The
You
doorknob? You didn't never did the
I know
doorknob?
about the ferry. You know.
Yeah, well, the ferry
sort of-
comes after. The
No,
doorknob.
yeah.
I didn't do the
Yeah,
doorknob.
you didn't grow up. It was maybe it's an American thing, but basically what happens if you're about to lose your tooth and it's getting on your parents' nerves because you're playing with it too much.
Yes.
So what they do is that your parents will go and they'll tie usually some floss or a string or something around the tooth that's loose, and they'll attach that to a door.
That's brutal. Oh no.
And then, actually, I don't know. Maybe girls didn't find it as hilarious, but boys typically found it that pretty hilarious.
Oh dear Lord.
And then as you look at it, like your dad will go 1, 2, and then slam the door.
Oh no.
And then your tooth juts out. And then, and then you get to see your tooth fly across the room, which is always pretty fun.
That's almost sound cruel.
Better than pliers.
Yeah, it's definitely better than pliers.
Oh my God.
And then you get a tooth for the ferry.
Yeah.
So and you don't lose the tooth, which is important.
Oh my
And it tends to come out whole because the problem is actually if you do it another way, it can actually like break and split, and you don't want that. So it's a good way to get the full tooth.
Oh dear Lord.
So that's a look
Okay.
behind the curtain of what happens, at least in the Gordon household anyway.
In
Let's
America.
move
So
right
anyway,
along.
so for the next thing actually we're talking about is actually the Legends of Aviation, which Harry actually got invited into. It actually now a member of the Legends of Aviation Library, and he was inducted to it in 2024. So the Living Legends of Aviation actually are admirable people of remarkable accomplishment in aviation that includes entrepreneurs, innovators, the industry leaders, record breakers, astronauts, pilots who have become celebrities, and celebrities who have become pilots, as well as legends that actually meet yearly to recognize and honor individuals who've made significant contributions in aviation. So, and Harry was inducted this past year in 2024 and was just honored I guess just this past April.
The speech was absolutely beautiful. So it was good.
He always
But-
does an amazing job.
Yeah, let's move right along again. Come on, and try to get.
I'm
in.
telling you, you just kicking me off this thing. It's fine. Move on. It's all you.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So the next is Connie Balmer. So
All
that's
right.
our next segment.
Connie.
Connie.
Yes.
Hope
ahead.
Connie's doing well.
I hope Connie's doing well.
No,
It's a
she
bit late
is.
for her.
She is. It's a bit late for her. She is. She's been on the chat with Sussex, so I know.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So for Connie, what we've been talking about is obviously as Meghan is expanding her empire, specifically around As Ever, she's expanding obviously across border. Oh, you are just giving me such the evil eye today.
I'm
What is
not
up with
giving you
you?
the-
You're giving me some
I'm
crazy
trying to
eyeball.
focus. Oh my God.
She's not slept, so her eyes are
Yeah,
twitching.
exactly. She's like,
No,
"What you
it's been a
daggers at me?"
while, so I need to get into the rhythm
Yeah,
of it.
okay.
So I'm just following.
So, so she's expanding As Ever across and beyond American borders. specifically about all of her wonderful jams and all the other products that she has on shelves. And so delivering specifically her raspberry preserves to select individuals in the UK for the first time. And and she used an exclusive venture in partnership with a company called Colford, which is a London-based gift service specializing in sustainable luxury presents. And then Colford actually, because obviously to them, this is a big deal. I mean, the fact that she's actually using them for this service. And so they announced it on social media and highlighted the white glove chauffeur service that actually hand delivered these jars to the doorsteps of the people who actually Meghan wanted to give them to her and her friends. I guess the connective thread between Colford and Meghan Sussex and the brand is actually it was founded by Imogen Beresford and Nathan Cole. And they obviously, and Colford actually shares that unique connection because Beresford is married to a TV presenter, Alex Beresford, who has actually publicly defended Meghan in 2021 during a widely discussed and also widely viewed clash with Piers Morgan on Good Morning Britain, where he was defending her.
That's right.
And then
the
also
full circle moment.
Exactly. And then also, they both actually expressed gratitude for receiving their jar of As Ever jam alongside a Jellycat stuffed animal for his young daughter who was just recently born, Camille.
Wow. I did not know that part. That's wonderful.
So so that's what it all is. So I'm done.
And in other news, Church Nellie is going to get inducted into the Whig Hall of Fame, which will be newly established in her honor. In fact, it's going
That's
to be
right.
A brand new organization launched specifically for that.
We should ask what would be the new look because from what I understand in Hollywood, there's going to be a new do coming out called the Pixie style. So everyone very soon is going to be walking around with pixie haircuts.
Yeah, so we'll have to make the Sussex Sunday service sort of community chat is the place to go to find out new updates on your wig etiquette and wig trends.
Okay, guys,
hosted by Church
we need to go on. So, should we get the service start or how do we do this? We mind.
Well, before we get service started, especially having actually people listening to us after not being on for however many weeks this has been, it is incumbent upon us to, as always, and even more so today, to say thank you. Thank you to all of you. We have missed you all so much. It's wonderful to see you all in the chat. And thank you for being a part of this community. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for supporting Lady Sussex, and always for your prayers for Lady Sussex and her mother.
My God, amen.
And for also doing things like reminding us to be actually good YouTube creators, or at least
try to.
Pretending to be, like asking people to like, share, and subscribe, and do all those things. So thank you again for doing that. And in addition to all of you wonderful subscribers and listeners, very, very special thank yous to each of our members who really make this possible. And to go through them and shout them out, we have Patrick O. Marcel, R.R. Carter, Antonio TC416, Church Nellie, Black Queen, Eve Balmer, Sylvia Fielder V. Thomas, Bryce Thompson, Royal Sussex, Lydia Washington, Angela White, Chef Sandy Love, Dawn Robinson, Gales, Diane Hawkins, Ingrid Soares, Avid Reader, Marvel Walker, Kate Castillo, Connie Balmer, April Showers, and Connie and Julie. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, guys. Oh, my God. Thank you. Thank you so much for understanding.
I have a quick question.
Yes?
Do I have a pixie haircut? I don't know. I don't do hair, so I'm not sure if this qualifies because it's short hair, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And with that,
yes.
we will remind everyone that we are not experts if that's not already clear. We don't claim to be. So for all the things that we're talking about here, one, they are all alleged, just blanket statements.
Especially what we're going to get into
Especially that. But also we encourage everyone to go and get information from multiple different sources.
Right. Educational purposes, but you need to do your own research and don't just take our word. Just listen to every other opinions but go with your own and how you feel. But make sure you do your research.
Exactly. And even though this is a church service, it's not evangelical in that we're not trying to convince anyone to change their beliefs. We are here to ask questions and support those people who we believe are doing the work to make the world a better place, especially those leaders like Meghan Sussex and Prince Harry. And so with that, we'll get the service started.
Get the service started. Well, for the word for today, for this service, it's probably one of the most important words that we have we have done. And I think this is a word I bore that from the thumbnail of Royal Sussex, actually. I know we are gonna come on this today. And so I didn't know what word, nothing come to my mind. Like I didn't know what word that I was going to be used, what word that needed to be used. And then of course, Royal Sussex answered that by just looking at his thumbnail, and I believe it was betrayal. And so that is where the word's coming from. So we're gonna get into finding out the meaning of that word, where it's actually originated from, and when did they start using this word?
Sure. So it's my cue?
Yes, Charles.
Okay. So betrayal was actually first used in 1788. It actually was derived from Latin and went from Latin actually to French, and then from French actually to English, and then Old English. So it has a long history, actually, and there's quite a lot of steps in order for it to mean what it does mean today.
1788.
88.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of what it actually means, there's two standard definitions for what it is, and I think most people have a fairly good understanding and grasp of what this is. But the first is the act of betraying someone or something, or the fact of being betrayed. It's a violation of a person's trust or confidence, and or of a moral standing, which I think is very important. So, for instance, the betrayal of one's principles, as well as betraying a friend or betraying someone's trust. All of those things are examples of betrayal. And then the second actually is a revelation of something hidden or secret. So again, you can be a betrayal of one's feelings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that actually you keep deep inside of you that when it does come out, it actually shows what you truly mean. So a betrayal of those feelings. And that is that's really the two things. That's what it means.
All right, George.
There's a lot. It's an exciting word. There's a lot to it. So I got three.
Yes.
First one, do the shorter one first. And know you'll especially appreciate this, Lady Sussex, just given the kind of person that you are. But this is by Fanny Lalott in 2023. It is called The Unkindest Cut of All, a quantitative study of betrayal narratives, published in the Journal of Community and Applied Social Psychology. And it's funny, and this is why I say that you'll like it, because they start off with a quote, but not just any quote. They start off with some Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm.
So it's from William Shakespeare, Julius Caesar, Act 3, Scene 2. For Brutus, as you know, was Caesar's angel. Judge, O you gods, how dearly Caesar loved him. This was the most unkindest cut of all, for when the noble Caesar saw him stab, ingratitude, more strong than the traitor's arm, quite vanquished him. But just to add to what Charles was just going through from this this study, which actually there's a lot of really interesting things throughout it. Don't have time to go through all of them, but just a useful thing that they included is that by definition, one can only be betrayed by a person whom one trusts. As such, most betrayals are committed by people that we know, as opposed to strangers who can still harm us, but they cannot betray us. A key distinction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think to listen to the interview that was given by Prince Harry, BBC, you understand why this word stands out. And so I'm not sure whether or not we should play our first clip from him or we should continue.
I think you should continue. Yeah.
Let's continue.
And it's funny to what we'll go with the clips, with the description of even that committee that makes the decisions about the security for Prince
right.
Harry. That idea of betrayal. It's not a betrayal if it's just from some experts that you don't know. It's betrayal when it's someone.
And you know what's so
that you trust.
interesting about this, because you start this by quoting Shakespeare, and allegedly that Harry's father is a big fan of Shakespeare.
There you go.
Go ahead.
And so actually, you'll appreciate the second one. We're going all around the different world of literature. This one is titled An Ethics of Betrayal: The Politics of Otherness in Emergent U.S. Literatures and Culture. It's by Crystal Parikh, copyright 2009, published by the Fordham University Press, as well as the American Literatures Initiative. And it's a really interesting idea because there's a lot to it. This is just a small excerpt. But what they write is that in Dante's Inferno, as is famously known, the ninth circle of hell is reserved for the most loathsome of sinners, those given special trust and love who have proven themselves traitors to God, country, and family. Most impressively, Lucifer gnaws on the heads of Judas, Brutus, and Cassius, and weeps as he struggles futilely to free himself from his own entrapment. In Dante's portrait, betrayal is a transgression in which crime provides its own punishment. Where traitor feeds upon traitors, betrayal acts as its own self-consuming vindication.
I mean, those are pretty words that, you can see coming out of Harry from that interview, that feeling, everything that you just say, which we're going to play, and you see how that attaching to the very question that was asked of him and how he answered his question and the feeling that come out of it.
The feeling, but also the way that Harry responded brilliantly of like who actually lost. He said, "Yeah, I may have lost this court case, but they won at keeping me unsafe." So
correct.
That this idea of the betrayal being the thing that actually you end up hurting yourself.
That's right.
When you do that
That's
betrayal.
right.
Okay, so the last one. And
yes.
This one is a longer one, but it's very, very interesting in terms of how serendipitously it kind of lines up with the conversation for today. It's titled "The Political Theology of Betrayal," and it's on Hobbes's Uzzah and Schmidt's Hobbes. So it's by Faisal G. Muhammad, published in the Journal for Early Modern Cultural Studies in spring of 2018. And what he writes, this is actually not early on. This is a little bit farther down, and just to maybe set some context, what the author here is doing is comparing two different philosophers, obviously Thomas Hobbes and his writing of Leviathan, and then Schmidt, who Schmidt critiqued Hobbes, and so now this third author is critiquing another author critiquing another. So there's a whole bunch of kind of background context to that. But what he writes is that our especial focus, however, will be not the betrayal of sort of bottom up, sort of, the treasonous traitor betraying his country. He says our especial focus, however, will be the sort of betrayal that works from the top down. Schmidt's revised view of Hobbes has also been described as arising from his own experience of being rejected by the regime he publicly endorsed. Despite his service to the National Socialists, Schmidt found himself under suspicion and attack shortly after his embrace of the party in 1933. For this reason, the fuller skepticism of his 1938 book on Leviathan may be animated in part by resentment that, as he saw it, Hobbes failed to take into account the possibility of a sovereign's arbitrary attack upon a loyal subject. Though he devotes very little space to this form of betrayal, Margolite describes this conceptually perplexing case of legally beheading Charles I for the crime of treason as dramatically changing the notion of treason, Treason was conceived not as betraying the king, but as betraying the people with whom the ruler was supposed to have thick relationships. That places us, of course, in the moment of Leviathan, which resolves this conceptual perplexity with conquest theory. It is not the power of law that is placed above Charles I, but a new power of the sword, because the king is no longer capable of offering protection. Subjects are absolved of their obligation of obedience, though also compelled to recognize the new sovereign power offering the benefits of peace. Thus, Leviathan accounts for England's change of regime, while Hobbes's central protection-obedience axiom, as Schmidt calls it, in the concept of the concept of the political, remains intact.
It's incredible because we are now dealing with Charles III, and this moment speak a lot of the Charles in Charles what, and I think if you can go back to Charles understanding, Charles the First understanding, actually read that part going forward and take your time, because I really want that to sink in.
Yes. And he says, for this reason, the fuller skepticism of his 1938 book on Leviathan may be animated in part by resentment that, as he saw it, Hobbes failed to take into account the possibility of a sovereign's arbitrary attack upon a loyal subject. Though he devotes very little space to this form of betrayal, Margalit describes the conceptually perplexing case of legally beheading Charles I for the crime of treason as dramatically changing the notion of treason. Because in this case, treason was conceived not as betraying the king, but as betraying the people with whom the ruler was supposed to have thick relationships. That places us, of course, in the moment of Leviathan, which resolves this conceptual perplexity with conquest theory. It is not the power of law that is placed above Charles, but a new power of the sword, because the king is no longer capable of offering protection. Subjects are absolved of their obligation of obedience, though also compelled to recognize the new sovereign power offering the benefits of peace. Thus, Leviathan accounts for England's change of regime, while Hobbes's central protection-obedience axiom, as Schmidt calls it in the concept of political, remains intact.
And the question is that interview that was just given, that interview with Harry in BBC, just revealed exactly that. Exactly the position that, Charles I found itself, that now Charles III, it's in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
Because when you looked at what is happening with his own kids, with his own people, and in my view, in my opinion, the lack of judgment and what we all been here in people sort of, are sending message and putting words in not my king, and all the thing that is been happening. You can see it's not far-fetched for that same situation, maybe in a different way, because now they don't beheaded people like they used to, but in so many ways there is something familiar between Charles I and our new king.
Yeah. I mean, and this is remarkable because the concept that they're exploring is this sort of reverse betrayal from the top down, talking about a king, the sovereign, to his subjects. Never mind a king to his own family, to the sixth in line to the throne, which is even more so expecting it. And it just so remarkable that what he's actually analyzing is this concept of the obedience, the protection-obedience axiom is what he describes. Think about that. What the whole thing Harry's talking about in that interview is the idea that the security protection being used, leveraged as a way to induce obedience is literally the same concept that they're talking about.
And I think that's what it's going to be important to actually really listen to that interview again and should dissect it word by word, because it's very easy. Everybody's taking what they feel like they need, or what stands out to them. And but it's really, if you listen, first of all, understanding why Harry had to do this interview, the importance of it, so much so the royals, from what I understand, allegedly responded very quickly. I'm not sure what statement that they put out, but from what I understand, they did, sort of issue a statement, and makes you wonder they understand the magnitude of that interview. Okay. But I also feel like there is something that is happening. There is a moment that, we probably, many of us find ourselves, is that even with the supporters of, our Duchess Harry and Meghan, there is slightly a little bit divine, and that I'm really scared and fear of, which I feel like it's all sort of coming all together with what's happening with the royals, and then what's happening even amongst us as supporter. And I think we need to be very careful and mindful. And I believe Royal Sussex talk about that, and I would like to talk about that as well. Is that the sense of, first of all, knowing everything that they're going through on daily basis. They don't have like, sort of a there's not a stop. They don't There's not a time to breathe. Try to function in a system where everything that they do, every little thing that they do, it's being sort of, watched and criticized and talk about, dissect, right? And so it was quite painful and hurt to actually see people that we know and I support of the Sussex, and they have been supporting of Sussex for a very long time, because of their own whatever that is that they disagree with the Sussexes, based on a statement, based on something that happened, and they decided, they're going to withdraw their support. And at that moment, what I'm thinking is that, what? One, were you truly a supporter, or did you just only build your channel using her just like everyone else? Three, I'm like, if you're a truly supporter and you really understand what they're going through, decision that they have to make, and all these decisions are not easy. For you, for one simple thing that you some disagree, without even having the full knowledge, the full reason, whether you agree or not, they have to make the best decision they can that's available to you, because the consequences of it all, it's not going to be you, it's going to be them. And so for you to remove your support, it's some of us are finding ourselves in a way of becoming the oppressor, because what we are saying, we are going to support you, defend you, but until you do something that we don't like, and it doesn't have to take much. But what makes us any different from the rest of them? That is try to control them and suppress them, because these are grown adults. And being a supporter does not mean that we're going to agree with every decision or everything. And there's other supporter that said, well, now that that they give, especially after the launch of what was very, very successful, thing, and she needs to go and talk with small media. No, she will do that. They have done that before they had even started talking to big media. They started it talking to, small media. They are a huge supporter of small media. And it's now you're telling, well, she needs to do that. No, she doesn't have to. because they have a role to play. And we already know if they fail not to talk to certain type of media, we see what happened. They turn against them because they chooses to give one person an interview, the other one did not give any know what they did. So they have to maneuver so much all the time. And for us as a supporter, we need to understand that. We need to understand that, you know what? Hey, when we speak like that, even if we feel some kind of way, it's basically we throwing them to the lions. And so I was quite disturbed and quite hurt by that. To see how easy for people to just, because of some sort of disagreement or their own idea what they should be doing next. And right now, I think it's fair to say they have been doing pretty good, the best that's available to them. And they're not always going to get it right. Because how could you, living in that pressure cooker that they are finding and try to have a normal life for their kids?
Even if they weren't. Just normal people living a normal life. You never get things. You don't always get everything right. Never mind when you're in that
exactly
kind of pressure cooker.
And so my fear is that, you know what, if we don't be careful on what we say, how we do it, and how we come out here and start saying things that, you know, we not even yet understand why, and not that they owe us any explanation, because they have to do what best for them, it's that we are becoming the oppressor. Even is this idea in that interview where our Duchess say that, you know what, that her secret that she had give, I think it was the time 100, that, you know, that she's happy now. And some people I think misinterpreted that by saying, well, now that she's happy, so maybe that, you know, we should move on, so to speak. I don't think that was the point of her happiness. It's not like she doesn't have problems, she doesn't have worries, she doesn't have stress, she doesn't have none of that. Her happiness or contentment is that, you know what, I have 2 kids that bring me so much joy. I have a husband that's supporting me in spite of. I have friends. And she finds some way to be happy. But does not mean that, you know, she doesn't have worries, she doesn't have concern, or that happiness somehow cannot be taken away at any time by people that wish to do them harm. And so we should want her to be happy. Because look, it didn't take long for us to listen to this interview, this incredible interview that Harry just gave, and see him almost like the emotion of it all. And you saw what they just went through with Center Valley and how that must be painful. Especially when the pain, when the stress come from someone that you would respect, that who should know better. And instead, what that person was trying to do is to use our Duchess, to bring our Duchess into something that has absolutely nothing to do with her. Just more so to have them throwing things at her. And what helped me to put all of it together and understand that moment, it's something that stays with me, that Royal Sussex actually, and we're going to play this before we start playing the interview, because this is so important for this moment right now. How I view it, how I see it, how that even guide me and help me, even in my own life, on what I say, what I do, with other people, and how I watch my mouth, so to speak. This is something that he did. He was having a conversation in 2023. This is how far back, with Miss Lauren, and it was about the color purple. And there we go. I do not want to get emotional. He said something that was so deep, so profound. It's not only stays with me, but at the time when he did, I actually play it. And probably one of the first time I asked him permission with owner that I can use his stuff. I didn't know that I could. He's like, of course, use anything that you want. And I was really so happy to hear that. But the reason why I wanted to use this piece that he did, it speak to this moment for me in a way. When you watch whether it's supporters, whether it's people who look like us, or people that who call themselves supporter, that doesn't understand the difference between a white supporter and a black supporter. And for black people, it's personal. It is personal. So I'm going to play this conversation, this clip, that not only stays with me, it's really have helped me even when I feel like say something, the damage of what I've said or whatever that, what that can do to somebody else, even when you're not attempting to. So let's play this clip. It's a February 2023 clip from Royal Sussex, a conversation with Lauren about the color purple.
Although obviously the image is not from 2023. The image is updated for the latest that's been going on with
Correct.
Bali.
Correct. Go ahead.
You ready for me to take another one of my odd turns?
Okay. Okay,
Now,
go ahead.
you said fatigue. I have a theory about Sophia on Color Purple. And I think that Harpo had worn Sophia down and gave her when they were trying to break her, not just Harpo, but Harpo was encouraged that he needed to break her spirit, make her less proud of herself and feeling, free and full and whole. And so, do you remember the line where they said, if it wasn't for you, the white folks would have never got her? Do you remember that? And
I do not remember the details. I could only handle that movie once, I'll be honest.
It is
it hurt me.
Just like me. I'm one
My
of
little
those
gentle flower spirit, it hurt me to watch. Okay,
right.
go ahead.
You're just like me. If it's a movie that goes there, I call it a one-of. I couldn't watch it twice. 12 Years a Slave, I could only watch it that one time.
Oh my
But
gosh.
when they had told him, they said, the white folks would have never got Sophia if it wasn't for you. And he said, that's a lie. That's a lie. But the thing is, he kept trying to break her down and had her so defensive and had her so agitated that when she got into that exchange with what was it, the mayor's wife or whatever it was, that she could not back down for her own self-preservation. She knew she could not pull it back. So she said, get my children out of here, because she knew that she might die that day. And I think that that's what happens so often with Black people, is that you have had to sleep with your fist balled up, and you've had to have that fight and flight feeling all these years, all this time, sometimes in the workplace, sometimes with your partner, sometimes with whatever. And so when you get to that certain point, you don't have it in you to back down, because all you know is I'm going to have to fight my way out of this.
Yeah. I think this was so powerful. That kind of reminder, that kind of explanation. If you know, you know. It stays with me. I analyze what he said, how that work with me and stays with me. And I'm looking at this moment and I see one of us excelling or at least try. I believe her name is Sophie too. Like what the coincidence was that what that's her name. Um, it's try to sell your own. Try to get those folks that who hate her to get at her one more time. And I also see the fact that sometimes some content creators that doesn't understand how fragile, how their words, their actions could lead for others that who try to get at them, to get at them. And I think the most profound thing in the interview when Megan says, I am tired and done playing the proving game. And how interesting, I believe, was weeks prior that we did Justify. How exhausting that it could be. And at that time, well, Sussex saying that, you know, it was, you know, it strike a nerve. But it's the truth. There is a difference between biracial children that will have a black parents, black people, and that even people that we call people of color, to white people don't understand. And it's appear or seems to be the moment that you have that one drop blood or you have one black thing, and somehow people think they have the right, you have to constantly justify yourself to them, the decision that she made or they made as a couple. They need to justify, they need to prove that they are that good. They need the constant, and how exhausting that can be. And at some point, you just have to just like, it is what it is going to be. I gotta live my life. And what I don't want people, or at least what I want people to take from this conversation, what it is that I'm saying, they have two kids, they must protect it. When people say that, you know, Harry and Meghan are free, there is a sense of freedom, but would they ever be really free? We have to be careful with our words. There is people that is really understanding, even when he said at the interview, which we'll probably discuss a bit later, I don't want to get into quickly, that reconciliation, what he was trying to say, because there was a lot of question that was put to him that he didn't answer directly. He go around the question that he answered. And why it was important for him to even use that word reconciliation. And so it is my fear that, you know, we're not overly not interpreting things. I'm not here to tell people what to think. But what I will say is that, you know, take some minute, reflect on the stuff that we put out there, what we are saying. And no matter how personal this will feel to us, no matter how much that makes us feel to see them hurting, we're not them. But what we do know for sure is that, that kind of level of stress they must be under every day, whether Megan choose to know or don't know about, but it's out there, it's happening. So it's a conscience that she's in every single day to say, I'm not going to be concerned about it. And try to show up for your kids and for your husband. And it is more likely that Harry, the protector, is probably much more closer to it to know about it and how that itself manifests on him. Because, Harry never say that, no, I don't listen to those things. I don't know what's going on. And she never say that he doesn't. And I'm sure that affecting them. So when we talk about freedom, yes, they may be enjoy a sense of freedom, but is it really freedom?
And building from exactly the point that you're making, one of the co-hosts in the chat actually added, Cynthia Ashton added, saying, hi, Lady Sussex, sometimes we could be so passionate about a cause that we may be doing the right thing in a wrong way.
That's right.
We should ask the question, why are we supporting the Sussexes?
Which is why I had to ask myself. I mean, I always knew why I was, because it's all starting, like, it's almost like somebody needed to say something, needed to do something. And it becomes more and more impersonal because you realize that, what, the thing that she's dealing with, in some way, shape, or form, we all had to deal with. So we recognize what was going on, except we're not on the world stage. And maybe perhaps it's not happening to us every single day. We don't have a whole, I guess, how you call these people, giants at our front door every single day, waiting for us to put one foot, sort of wrong. And we'll push and we'll push. It's almost like they want blood. They say that. People are pointing out, say things that you never thought you will ever hear, or you never thought that will come from another human being about another human, knowingly, what have happened in the past before. And they feel quite comfortable. No matter what, they still have 2 kids now they have to put first. And that system, to me, I'm not so sure there's ever a truly, really way out of this. Because it's not like, regardless, you hear about, remove title and all these things, all that doesn't stop what happened. And Harry said himself, the truth of the matter is Harry chose love. And that love that he chose just happened to be a biracial woman. And for some people, they have a problem with that. They have a problem with that for many reasons. And we know some of the reasons. And furthermore, there is 2 kids that carry that lineage, what that actually meant. So it does not really matter. That attachment will always be there. And because of that attachment, the so-called freedom will never truly be exist, in my opinion. for me, the way I looked at it, it's just that they are in a place where they're able to maybe breathe, able to support themselves, being able to work, being able to spend time with each other, being able to raise their kids in an environment that they feel comfortable and bring people that they can feel like they can trust, which is one of the first thing that was saying. The host Jamie said that thank you for trusting me, because she understand that what, how tough and difficult it must be for her to even say yes to, and whatever that she said, how that going to turn to, and what they're going to say, and what she herself maybe experienced from that interview. Do you see where I'm getting at?
Yeah, I mean, and even just to add, like, from Harry's interview himself, what he said, there is part of the reason why this specific case was so important is because he said this is the decision that was made in 2020 is something that affects him every single day.
That's right.
There's not a day that goes by where it's not impacting. So even what you mentioned, maybe they're in a place where they're more comfortable relatively, more at ease, more able to breathe. It's still relative because there's still that thing
That's
that is in
right.
the background among all the other things that are constant.
That's right,
every single day.
because again, he cannot detach himself no matter what. And when the people that you're counting on, you expect on, and fail you, so it's a problem. So let's go with the first clip, and actually we listen to Prince Harry.
And you got to remember, you would stay when you want to pause.
That's right. I will tell you. Always before each question, we'll pause and actually talk about the segment of his statement.
And also, fair warning, because I've seen this in the chat a little bit, that there may have been some listeners who have been avoiding listening to the interview as of yet just because of how emotional it is. So...
Yes. So I think, yes, I guess what's the word that they use?
Trigger warning.
Trigger warning. This interview, but yes, but I want you guys to see it as emotional as it is, and as emotional that what we looked at Harry, because I that emotion, to me, I interpret it as a release, as that I know the truth. I'm putting the truth out, but I'm going to need to be very careful on what I said. And there was like an intensity, but I don't want us to look at this interview as a sorrow, as a something that, but I think we need to look at this interview as Harry the soldier, as Harry the protector, as Harry, it is on top of what it is need to do, not just only for himself, for his family, but how important to him that the truth is out. And like they say, the truth will set you free. And again, it's Harry stepping forward constantly with these folks have no idea what he's going to do and how he's going to go about doing things. And so I want us to really listen to that interview in that kind of sense. It just, he understand that. He knew that, because if you listen to him, he actually stating that, what, when he started, he had found out very early on, as he started, that there's a possibility who's on the board of Revec, you may not win this. You know what I mean? I'm sure you hope for the best. And as I say, I wish somebody had told me before he started. But at the same token, what has been revealed to him it's incredible because he could have gone his life not knowing, and things could have happened, and there would never be an explanation. And I think I want us, at least that's the way I see it. That's the way I looked at it. As tough and very difficult, but how precise that he was with his word and what he said and how he said and how important that it is not only for us as supporters to hear, but what he's tried to achieve, what he's tried to do is to document these. And so I think he brilliantly have done that. And as well, as his wife with those 2 interviews. So let's play Prince Harry first clip.
Appealed, arguing he was singled out for different, unjustified and inferior treatment. But 3 judges at the Court of Appeal today rejected that appeal. Well, now, following that judgment, he's told the BBC that it is currently impossible for him and his family to return to the UK. He's also said that because of the current situation, his father, the King, isn't speaking to him. Well, Prince Harry is currently living in California, where he's been speaking to our correspondent Neda Tawfik, and we can bring you that extended interview now.
But obviously, pretty gutted about the decision. We thought it was going to go our way, but it certainly has proven that there was no way to win this through the courts. Wish someone had told me that beforehand. The decision has been a surprise as well as not a surprise. For the time being, it's impossible for me to take my family back to the UK safely.
You're obviously very deeply affected by this. What memories, experiences had you hoped your children, Archie and Lilibet, would have had that you think they won't be able to now with this decision?
Well, for a start, the only time that I've come back to the UK is sadly for funerals or court cases, with the odd charitable function where I can in between that. I put myself at risk for that, but I will continue on with a life of public service, so I will always support the charities and the people that mean so much to me. I can't see a world in which I would be bringing my wife and children back to the UK at this point. And the things that they're going to miss is, well, everything. I love my country. I always have done, despite what some people in that country have done. I miss the UK. I miss parts of the UK, of course I do. And I think that it's really quite sad that I won't be able to show, my children my homeland.
And as you say, you've gone back several times during this years-long battle. What about the security arrangements that were in place made you feel it would be unsafe for you and your family?
There's only so much that I can say because of the redaction process and the national security matters at hand, but everything. Because in beginning of 2020, I was scored the highest as far as risk was concerned. And then overnight, I was reduced to the lowest without actually going through the risk management board. So one does question how that is even possible and also the motive behind that at the time. And that was in 2020. And as hard as it is to appreciate or understand why the decision was made the way that it was in 2020, the hardest thing for me has been the fix of that decision for the last 5 years. The fact that I still haven't had a risk management board assessment done for me over the last 5 years. Everybody else within this group of people get it at the minimum once a year. So again, I would not have taken this far if I didn't have compelling evidence of facts that reveal why the decision was made. And I'm sitting here today talking to you where, we've lost the appeal, but the other side have won in keeping me unsafe.
Exactly. So how do we unpack this? His word, not my word. The other side tried to keep him being unsafe. And the fact that, when his security was cut, he was still servicing the Queen. And so this is something that I don't quite understand. It is something that very tough and very difficult to actually really hear. It's for an institution and for the palace itself, or at least the media, who very often talk about protocols. How important protocols is to the institution, to the royal family, to the whole thing. And we know that whole idea protocol, Meghan break this protocol, that protocol, that protocol. And it's appeared to be they are breaking their own protocol, allegedly. So I truly really don't understand, for a soldier who served his country, and as we will hear from him when he explained how you get securities. It's about servicing the country, and there's even private folks who get security, which I didn't know about. Even just in that basic, we remove the fact that he's royal. He was born into this, and he did not ask to be born to this. Just the fact that he did two tours in Afghanistan. He deserves to have security, being such a high profile. And then on top of it, he is the son of a king. And so I think, as someone, sometimes I find myself watching King Charles, and I want to give him some sort of benefit of the doubt and say, there is no way he's going to let this happen or that happen. How, Maya Angelou said, when somebody tell you who they are, believe them. And I find myself sometimes not want to believe that, he can be this man, or he can be this king, or he can be sort of, this is his son. I was doing research and looking at picture of the three of them walking around, and he had even said something about the media that was picked up by Mike and stuff like that, whatever the case is. The way he had shown himself to be that he was this dad that actually sort of, taking care of his sons very early after the passing of Diana. And I'm asking myself, can it be true, regardless what the situation that may be going on or disagreement that he may have with his son, or how he will wish that his son would have done things, that he will not want his son to be safe and be protected, or stand up and say, no, these are my grandchildren, they need to be protected. This is my son with his wife, they need to be protected. Like, I'm having a hard time believing that a dad that who grew up in a system himself, which he talks about, what that has done to him himself, allegedly, that would not understand, who in some ways, in my view, in my opinion, even though Harry say he doesn't believe it's punishment, and that's how I see it, almost like as a punishment, that I'm going to punish you to force you to come back. But first of all, even if you would want your kids to come back, but why would you do it that way? And why would you want your kids to not be happy? That's the part that I don't really understand. I don't fully get or grasp. Because this is what we often hear from mom and dad. They want their kids to be happy, no matter what. Maybe they're making decision, that, we disagree with, we don't agree. And, how many of us have make decision that our family agree with? One will say that King Charles had made decision to marry a woman that most people disagree, didn't want him to. Some will say his family members probably had wished that he did not marry this woman. Some will say maybe, have they had allowed him to marry this woman, that maybe perhaps now Diana would have been alive. Who knows? I don't know. So why would he not understand that? Where his son find himself? And better understanding the decision ones have to be made, not always going to be agreed by everyone else, but you have to do what make you happy, which in my belief that he find himself spite of, everybody, disagreement with him, he find happiness with his queen now. He made that decision and didn't care whatever anybody had to say. So I'm not understanding, why would you not understand that your son make a decision because he found a woman that he's happy with, and he did not never say that, hey, I don't want to serve. I want to continue serving, but I want to find a way that works for me and my family. And to my disappointment, honestly, knowing Charles himself, whether you like him or not, have been through some stuff. And he find ways to make decisions that was not popular and probably still unpopular. He protect his woman. He find ways to protect their family, from what I understand, allegedly, maybe, I don't know. If there was going to be anybody who understand where Harry is coming from, that should be him. So I'm quite lost, and I don't have the words. But let's continue.
Again, there's a lot of question marks that a lot of people will have. I have all of the truth. I have all of the knowledge now throughout the legal process. I've uncovered my worst fears. And to now know today, based on this judgment, that there was no legal framework that constrains the decisions of this body, Ravek, of which the royal household sit on. And I didn't know that until this legal process in 2021. One of the first things my lawyer said to me was, as disclosure started, or as this process started, she turned around and said, "Did you know that the royal household sat on Ravek?" And my jaw hit the floor.
Well, I want to ask you about that because the King's private secretary sits on Ravek now.
Sir Clive Alderton, yeah.
Do you wish your father...
And another person as well, but yes.
Do you wish your father had intervened, despite how that may have looked?
I've never asked him to intervene. I've asked him to step out of the way and let the experts do their job. This RAVEC committee is an expert committee full of professionals, plus the royal household. And the royal household don't have any role in that, on the RAVEC committee, other than the helping influence the decisions based on members of the royal family. And 5 years later, every single visit that I do back to the UK has to go through the royal household. My representative on the RAVEC committee, still to this day, is the royal household. That is not a decision that I choose. I am forced to go through the royal household and accept that they are putting my best interests forward during these conversations and the deliberations. So no, I haven't asked my father to intervene. The whole point of a risk management board, which, as I said, everybody else gets, but I haven't, never been given since back end of 2019 was the last one that I was given. The whole point of that is to have a board and a risk assessment, a separate board from RAVEC that considers all of the facts and all the circumstances. It is a system and an assessment that is designed to be non-biased and to avoid interference. What I know throughout this legal process is the interference that was created came from the royal household. And the RAVEC chair at the time, who I believe I can talk about because he's no longer there, Sir Richard Mottram, the first thing he did, or the first people that he went to go and see, was the royal household at the palace. So whether it's the media or whether it's anybody else that claims that the royal household and my father and my family don't have any decision-making capabilities on RAVEC, well then what's their role? They're not experts. What's their role on that? And Sir Richard Mottram emailed back in January of 2020 that an RMB would be necessary before taking my security away. After his visit to the palace, that RMB that was planned was abandoned in favour of alternative governance measures.
But
There's so much to impact, and I think this is an interview that I'm probably going to listen over and over and over again because you are hearing something almost like different, almost like the first time, each time. And when you listen to everything that he say, to me in itself, this is a disaster for the royal family. This is a PR disaster. It will maybe not in England, but in the outside world, for the Commonwealth, that kind of piece of news, of evidence, of now that is in public. I think everyone aware that the king is the law, so to speak, allegedly. But I don't think that people quite understand, or maybe because supposedly they're not supposed to be involved in politics, like they say, or not involved, or at least not influence. I mean, some people believe that, some people don't believe that they do. But now it seems, from Harry's point of view, there was interference by the royal household. Allegedly. I don't know. But listen to what Harry said, been uncovering the truth. That cannot be good for them. But when you listen why Harry had to do this, had to say every piece of that, because we know how that will play, and we already seen that, how it's been playing in the media. But that kind of record will always be there.
And to your point on the going back and listening and studying that interview, it's also one that it is worth recognizing. It is a masterclass from Harry in terms of the precision of words and phrasing.
That's right.
And the power of words and phrasing. 'Cause
Absolutely.
the interviewer question of, have you asked your father to intervene, is very precise answer. It says, I have not asked him to intervene. I have asked him to step aside
Right.
and let
Exactly.
the experts do the work.
To the work.
But
The question is, yes.
if it leads one to the
Which
question,
one
okay,
itself, yes.
I step aside because
That is
because of what?
because he is involved, like and that should be, again, this is what I've said earlier, you would have expect it should never reach that level for the father to step in and say, no, we cannot do this. I'm not going to do that. What good could come out of this? Do you understand what I'm saying? And so this is what I'm saying. Let's not looking at this interview as sad and depressing and say, well, what do we do now? And from what I hear from some people, well, leave it alone or like feel deprived. No. There is a brilliant game at play here that is so crucial and so important that Harry must play to continue keeping himself and his family safe. It's to speak, if not the whole truth, at least as much that he can put out there to make sure people know what the truth is. Because if we all know, I mean, some of us do, and some of us now are just getting to know and listen to words of Diana. And some very often it's very easy to dismiss. Some people had said that, what, she was, what is it that, they like to say, paranoid. So how easy would it be for them to say, oh, Harry is just being paranoid? I mean, we had just very, Royal Sussex sort of featured this article about this lady who had put that, how, do you have that article? This woman talking about the fact that, it's that he will have almost like, have the same fate with his family. I'm just paraphrasing here from this article I think we have. I mean, that's scary. And those are people in some really weird way, whether directly or indirectly, that speak for the royals family. So I literally don't understand. So let's continue again.
And as we about to go on, just saying a special hello to Patricia Ann Franklin.
Yes.
Who is joining us for the first time.
Wonderful. So what is our co-host is saying in that conversation?
Oh, they're having some great conversation while you're going. And actually one thing that kind of goes to what you were just talking about with the thinking that's at play and the bigger picture was Karen Warner adding that Prince Harry is a soldier and he's been trained to understand intelligence in complex situations.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
There is that to make sure that we account for as well.
Yes, please share with me what my co-hosts are saying. Be a little bit more often, so I don't feel like I'm speaking to myself.
I can't. You're not gonna cut you off when you're on a roll,
No,
when
but
you're
still,
on a roll,
I want to hear that I'm not talking crazy here.
No,
So
we'll tell you.
Please share with me. So yeah, let's move on.
The court decided today was that they were justified for 4 reasons to not have that review. And a major part of that is because you're no longer a working royal, a change in your status. Do you not accept that from the court?
Well, my status hasn't changed. It can't change. I am who I am. I am part of what I'm part of, and I can never escape that. my circumstances will always be the same. But with a specific answer to the question, there are comparisons that exist. And again, I have to be careful what I say, but I think it would be quite shocking for the British public and the public at large to understand or know that, in fact, many people do know this, that people who leave public office receive lifetime protection, regardless of whether there are threats or risks to them. So for me, with a whole list of risks and threats that were known about in 2020 and that have only increased over time, including the Al-Qaeda threat that was published and talked about recently, completely disregarded, thrown away, ignored, because for me, security was made conditional on having that official role. That role that everybody knows, that myself and my wife wished to carry on, but was stopped from being able to do that back in 2020.
What do you say to those who ask, why should the taxpayer pay for your police security if you have your own private security? Where are the gaps there? What's your response to those who say you're getting police protection on a case-by-case?
Before we getting into this, there is something that he says very important that very often miss into the conversation. Is this idea that, you know what, they left or they run or this. They wanted to continue. They needed to find a way that, you know what, to work it out. But what they wanted them to be fully in and to be under their controls. And I think very often when people are speaking, it seems like, you know what, they're not mentioning that in the media. But more so, I mean, it's the risk for this guy. I mean, I don't know. I don't do these things, but you could just imagine being such a high-profile person, also being a soldier. Now he's actually the son of a king. That even much, I mean, put much more a bigger target on him. Just the fact that he's the son of the king. Forget about that him being a prince, the you know, sort of what was there before, which we know was massive to begin with. Him being in the military, but now he's facing a completely different threat because he is the son of the monarch. I don't see why they need a case to be made for that, because that is something that, you know what, everybody, or at least I would like to believe everyone that who's serving, that who's either serving in a capacity of president or being a, you know, sort of a king or of some sort, that their family, it's a constantly risk for their family. So I just don't understand what is it about Harry exactly, who's not only serving his country, but have done some incredible things that his father should be proud of. And not being able to have his security. What exactly have he done?
Adrian Burroughs added that Harry said that he asked Charles to break the cycle and he hung up the phone on Harry.
Yeah, that's how you everything. Let's continue in listening to Harry.
Basis.
I tell you, why don't you ask that question again, but in three parts, if you could? Because you just put three very, very important questions together.
Sure.
And I cannot possibly answer all three of them at the same time.
Sure. What do you say to those who ask why the UK taxpayer should pay for police security? You have your own private security.
Well, first off, private security can only do so much. Again, I can't go into the details of that, but I think most people will be able to work that out. one of the major things is they don't have jurisdiction in a foreign country or in any country. They don't have any jurisdiction. Police protection is effective protection, which is what my grandmother made very clear that we needed. With regard to the taxpayer part of it, I don't need to go into detail of how much the royal family costs or how much protection costs or whatever. What I will say is that some of the British tabloid press did a very good job in campaigning to have our security removed by quoting figures such as £20 million. Right, and through this disclosure process, I've seen constituents in the UK write to their MP saying, I don't want to, as a taxpayer, I don't want to pay for Meghan and Harry's security at this cost. They're literally quoting headlines from British newspapers. Those figures are obviously grossly exaggerated by about 18, 19 times. And further to that, if you know that other people are being protected, people that have made a choice for public office, then why wouldn't you be comfortable, happy with someone in my position who's given 35 years service to his country, 2 tours of Afghanistan, and the threats and risks to my life? I was born into this position. I was born into those risks, and they've only increased over time, along with my marriage to Meghan, and the frenzy across media, mainstream media and social media that created. So, and I guess on top of that as well, probably what people don't know, but that is mentioned in the judgment today, RAVEC protect private citizens. I was made a private citizen by the royal household, not by RAVEC, by the royal household. I can't be a private citizen. I will never be seen as a private citizen. I will never be treated as a private citizen, not by the media, not by most people, and certainly not by anybody that wants to harm me or my wife or our kids.
Exactly. This is what my point earlier was. Remove title, do whatever it is that you want. He will never be this private. That association with him with the royals, what he represents, will always be a high stake. And me personally, well, what I believe is, if they try to remove anything more than they already have removed from them, it's not only could be a massive disaster for the royal family, but it's also will create a precedent in something that they may not be able to put the genie back in the bottle. Because at the end of the day, it seems to be like there's certain people think, well, if we remove everything from them, so then the people that will try to do them harm, it will make it much easier. That's how I see it. That's how I view it. As I think the push of trying to strip them of everything is to make them even more vulnerable. And if they are almost like what they think they will be doing is remove that kind of attachment. And so if they do say, therefore, that, what, anything can be done to them, so to speak, because they are no longer attached with the royal, which is not true. I mean, you can remove the title. You cannot remove the title of him being prince. And if you remove the Duchess title, then now you have to call our Duchess Princess of Harry. So I don't think that will work either for them. Then you hear some people, even in the squads, give it all up. David is this, give it that. Whatever the case is, you don't need it. This, that. It all sound good. But what good would they do? We know they don't need it. But it will actually not do anything. And if they're going to remove them, let them be the one that not Harry and Meghan. Do you see what I'm saying? There is a problem here that I think the royals, the media, gonna have to answer to this. Why is he not eligible for royal protections when you have all these facts, when you have all these elements? And furthermore, how do you respond to the fact is that even private citizens, some private citizens allegedly have securities, and the son of a king, the grandkids of a king, the daughter-in-law of a king, the person that the king walked down the aisle to, does not have securities. How could that be? Someone at some point gonna have to answer that. And I think what was so brilliant also is just the fact that this particularly interview was given to BBC. Think about this, guys. It's very important. Not America, even though it was conducted here, but it was BBC. From what I understand, one of the premier channels, public channel. So let's move on.
So I think once people realize or understand that there are private citizens who have never played any role in public office and never will play any public role, that because they are high risk, they are protected at taxpayers' expense, and rightly so, because it will affect not only with that person, could they end up in hospital or worse on UK soil, but it comes down to impact, and it comes down to the reputational impact of the UK if that person or those people are injured on UK soil. But apparently for me, that doesn't matter.
And just to be absolutely clear, what is the difference between the top-level security you say you should have and the security you are given on this case-by-case basis when you go
so
to
the details of the security I can't talk about. All I will say is that the last RMB assessment that I was given, I scored the highest. The only person within the family that scored anywhere near that was my grandmother. Overnight, I was reduced to the lowest. This case-by-case basis has been used by RAVEC and also by large sections of the British press to say, well, what's the big problem? You're given something on a case-by-case basis. Unfortunately, that case-by-case basis is separated by the reason for my visit. Sorry, just to give you more context on that. It's not really a case-by-case basis. It's an either-or. If you're invited to the UK by your family, then we will give you security. If you come for any other reason, then you will get a very low amount of security. I'm not going to confirm what that is, but it is completely insufficient. Somewhere along the line, people have talked about the fact that it really, all it is someone on the end of a phone.
Again, one thing that I don't know if you guys catch, when he says that, the only person that has the higher security risk, not his father, who would be the next king, not his brother, who will be the king to be at some point, not their children, him and his grandmother. And that's how everything you need to know in terms of his, not just only his popularity, his service, what he has done in doing for his country, that is putting him at the highest risk, equal to his grandmother, the late Queen. That's how everything that you need to know. And then you telling me that you're not going to keep this man safe when he's, according to him, according to the assessment at that time, allegedly, because I was not a part of the room, I didn't see the document, but I believe Harry, I believe what he said to be true. He had the highest. So how do you solve this problem? Can someone say something here?
He asked a big question: how to solve that problem?
I mean, someone need to answer to this. Because again, this is what I'm saying. It's so important to actually really listen to these interviews over and over again, because you find things that just like, and how important for him to actually really say this. The comparison. He didn't compare himself with his brother, his father. He literally said, right? The highest was the Queen, the Majesty, the late Queen. He could have said him and his father and his brother. He said the two of them. And we know at some point, at some time, everyone used to say that, you know what, him and the Queen rated, the most popular figure in the royal family. And really, this man continues, I mean, in my opinion, still serving his country, still doing incredible things for the people of that country.
And Adrian Burroughs added in that same sort of line of thinking that exactly with Harry, he just said just him and Elizabeth, and that's probably why William and Charles tried to keep Elizabeth away from Harry.
Absolutely. And probably this is what the Queen understood, why she wanted them to continue having securities.
It's also, and Adrian also added that she said that's why Harry told Hoda Kotb about that he was concerned about who was around Elizabeth when she got sick.
Absolutely. So let's hear, again, the next piece.
So, no matter how much private security I have around me, there's only so much that I can do and operate and function within the UK when it comes to supporting my charities, visiting my friends, all of these things. So, I've been treated very, very, very differently to everybody else that exists. All examples that exist, past, present, I have been singled out.
You've spoken very openly about the fact that you think you've been punished for leaving the monarchy. Who specifically do you think is trying to punish you?
I don't think that anymore. Now I know that it was, security was used as leverage. And I think what really worries me more than anything else about today's decision, depending on what happens next, is that it's set a new precedent that security can be used to control members of the family, and effectively what it does is imprison other members of the family from being able to, choose a different life. If for me security is conditional on having an official role, one that both myself and my wife wished to carry on, but then was rejected, not by Ravek, was rejected by the royal household, and the result to that is you lose your security. That basically says that you can't live outside of their control if you want to be safe. But there's a pretty hard decision there, and I think if you strip away all the noise of everything that's been said by other people and all the noise that's been created around this, if you strip that all away, I think what people will hear is that the only thing that I've been asking for throughout this whole process is safety, both when I was when I was part of the institution and when we left. And the important piece here, Neda, is, you know, for me and my wife, well, I mean, I'm not sure how much I can say, but well, I can never leave the royal family. Yeah, that is my family. That is my larger family. I left the institution because at the end of the day I had to. I didn't leave it in 2020. I left it in 2021. But security was removed in 2020.
Exactly. I think what he was trying to say there, and I think a lot of people, when he says that, you know, he can never leave his family, people misinterpret it as though that, you know what, somehow maybe he want to stay, or maybe that, you know, sort of he can somehow detach himself. It's not like most of us that who either have disagreement and we can actually walk away from our family or extended family and never see them, and no one will ever know that we were ever even attached to certain type of people unless we tell them. But someone like Harry, even if he didn't denounce them as much as he can, everyone will always know this is the son of Diana, this is the sons of King Charles, and always gonna know that, you know, he is the brother of the next king. How do you detach yourself from that family? You can't. You'll never be, because you will always be seen as that. I mean, again, just what I just said earlier, even if you would to remove the title that was given to him by Queen Elizabeth, you know, Dukes, a title that you receive when you get married, he was prince, and that they can never remove. He was born into this, and he will die into this. So I totally understand what he meant and what he said. He will always be a part of their history book when it comes to the royals. There's no way of running away from that. This idea that, you know what, private citizen, how does one do that? When you come from the most famous family they are. I don't really understand this. That's why, like, I was a little bit confused that people was taking back from that statement, and some of them was from the Sussex, so to speak. Do you understand what I mean? Even though we hear all the time that, you know, sort of the media say that, you know, they want that attachment to the royal. That's why they're able to do this. It may be so, but it is what it is. Because there's no way of detaching themselves ever from who he was born into.
Yeah, and it's interesting listening to Harry. There's a lot of things in this interview that he does not. He says with a sort of like an intonation, a tonality, a delivery that is very subtle. And that one of the last things in that last part of the clip that was played that he said. Is one, it's like all of the things in the tabloids or in public perception in certain areas where it's you're not a working royal, so why would you get security? Well, the recognition that even private citizens, not only those who have served in public office, but private citizens who are just private citizens and have never served also get protection because when there is a need and it is warranted, and that makes sense. But then he goes on, and he says it very sort of in an understated way at the end there, but it's so important that he says it's not even tied to the stepping back from the institution as a working royal, because he said that happened in 2021. Security was removed in 2020. the year before that.
Exactly.
And so
Before that.
it's and the facts. I have the facts. The facts are there that they are. This is what Harry's saying, that it's because it was used as leverage to force them to behave a certain way.
To come back.
Yeah.
Let's play the rest of the clips.
Speaking of your family, your father is ill with cancer. Will you continue to visit him alone without the family? Where does this leave things moving forward, the ability of your children to see their grandfather?
Life is a precious thing, and I'm acutely aware of the fragility of that. I can only come to the UK safely if I'm invited. And there is a lot of control and ability in my father's hands. Ultimately, this whole thing could be resolved through him, not necessarily by intervening, but by stepping aside, allowing the experts to do what is necessary and to carry out an RMB. That said, this all was initiated under a previous government. There is now a new government. I have had it described to me, once people knew about the facts, that this is an good old-fashioned establishment stitch-up, and that's what it feels like.
So should Keir Starmer step in?
I think that, based on the judgment that the court has put out today, it clearly states that RAVEC aren't constrained by law. Again, I wish somebody had said that from the beginning. If they're not constrained by law, then this decision was made by the royal prerogative, which means that on national security matters, my case, which the other side have used national security exclusions and excuses to withhold certain information from me, restrict me from being able to speak about certain things to the public, that this national security matter is not bound by any law, and that RAVEC can abandon the very processes, the very expert processes that exist to protect individuals and the people around them, as well as the decision makers themselves, from liability if anything should happen. So,
did you hear this? They're exempt from liability if anything were to happen. They're not bound by the law. And one of very important thing that he say, if his father would excuse himself, but at the same time, he says that, he could have done something. And why this was so important for Harry to say, because we all have a custom of hearing the media said, oh my God, Charles is getting old. And God forbid that, something were to happen to him. Oh my God, that, he didn't let, the son see his grandchild before he died, or sort of, we could actually hear the headlines. And I think it was so important for Harry to actually truly say, hey, I cannot come there unless I am invited safely. Put it right back on them to remove that whole constant that, is getting the same game that they play with the Queen. She's 96 years old. She's 96 years old. Oh my God. She's, talking about grandchildren, and oh my God, he misses grandchildren. He would love to see his grandchildren, and all the thing that, they have been saying. Harry just removed that. Because we know, God forbid, or if something ever to happen to King Charles, obviously the man have cancer. We don't know what his prognosis, and I hope for him that he does a full recovery and he lives a long life. I hope that he does. But we just hear Harry say, hey, I don't know how long he has. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so when you hear that, you can hear from the media, you can hear the headlines, what the headlines will be. But I think it was so precise to make it very clear the next time that, we hear in the media something why he could come here, or he could get because again we heard that, well, he got security, and it's a lie that he doesn't have security, da, 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 da. He just removed all that.
Yeah, and Com had actually mentioned this. Com, our co-host, mentioned this in the chat before, saying that another squatty podcaster had brought up that the monarch has the authority to ignore the usual laws and protocol, that it's that special term for the royal prerogative. And it is a remarkable thing to hear that there's just this governing body that's part of the government that just does not bound by the law. But when you also talk, when you mentioned, Lady Sussex, that idea of, not potentially being able to put the genie back in the bottle, and the fallout is not even still just about Harry. It's also things like that in the context of a country in which there's a lot of protests of people saying that we don't want a monarchy anymore.
That's right.
He's not my king. And then they're also hearing about that there's entire parts of the government and getting refreshed on the fact that there's just people that can just ignore the law.
But that statement, it's a huge problem even for the parliament. They may have to deal with that at some point or another.
Yeah, I mean that's a crazy
because
thing.
this is on a record.
Harry said it so calmly and so subtly, but that's a crazy thing that there's just a body like that is not bound by the law,
and that can be influenced. Wow, let's play the next clip. My goodness.
So, I would ask the Prime Minister to step in. I would ask Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, to look at this very, very carefully, and I would ask her to review RABEC and its members, because if it is an expert body, then what is the royal household's role there? If it isn't to influence and decide what they want for the members of their household.
Do you want the court battle to continue? Do you want to try to see this get to the Supreme Court?
I don't want any battles to continue. There is way too much suffering and way too much conflict in the world. At the heart of it is a family dispute. And it makes me really, really sad that we're sitting here today, 5 years later, where a decision that was made, most likely, in fact, I know, to keep us under the roof. But then once you realize that wasn't going to work, once they realized that, myself, my wife, and our kids are happier outside of the institution, then please just look at the facts. Look at the risks, look at the threat, look at the impact that if anything was to happen to me, my wife, or my father's grandchildren, if anything was to happen to them, look where the responsibility lies. So, there's a duty of care that has been completely thrown out the window, and that doesn't feel great. Whether we agree or disagree, and there's a lot we agree on, there's a lot that we disagree on. But that aside, where is the duty of care? Because, as I said, life is precious, and it is very clear that from 2020, because I was no longer allowed an official role, and because I decided to remove myself eventually from the institution, that my life got devalued from the highest score to the lowest score overnight.
That's probably will be the only thing that makes me sad when I had hear him said the lack of care, because one will argue from the age of 11 when he lost his grandmother, there is a lack in my care, in my opinion, that I feel that has shown to Harry. And I think he find ways around that and become the success that he is, and the thing that he had done spite of. But I will argue that even of him being in that position that he's in, and how all of it went, is because the lack of care, because he was meant to be the spare, and that's all he is. And when you listen or you read the spare, you kind of understand, I don't know if that care was ever there. But I think what he was trying to say, or the way I'm taking it, why would you not want me to be safe when I am your son? And also the understanding that, you know what, anything that happened to me, my kids, in some ways, you're all responsible for it. Because you have the knowledge, you have the participations. But it's appear to be, because if you hear his word, he says, you know, the grandfather of his kids. And I think that was directing to those we call the men in gray suits, who also seems to be, who have a lot of influence, in my opinion here, on King Charles, I think.
Yeah.
And it
also,
feels like that statement was directed to them.
yes. That, and also the beginning of that last section, Harry started off by saying, it's really sad to me that we're sitting here for what's been going on for now 5 years, but ultimately is a family dispute. And all of these different places, him saying a family dispute, him saying that he's not asked his father to intervene, he's asked them to step out of the way. That someone else is also from the royal household is the one that's on is on Ravik, is all of it. You combine all of it, it just makes it very clear what the facts are.
And we saw a piece of that in Spare, when Harry was describing this idea that, you know what, some of the people that work there had disrespectful they was to him. You know what I mean? And so you can imagine, because since he is the Spare, it didn't feel like they hold any sort of kind of respect to him.
Marshar added that Harry calling for Ravik to be investigated is a shot being fired across the bow. This man is a soldier and knows the strategy of war. He has the blood of true kings in his veins. It's not over.
Absolutely. This is what I'm saying. This is a masterclass. This is a brilliant thing. From what his wife did the week before to that interview, working together, understanding we are fighting for our lives here, but everything must document, because that's all at the end of the day they have when you are fighting that kind of force that will change everything, that will say very different, and some will believe it. But these records are there forever. So let's move on. Hopefully, I think that's the last clip. Let's go ahead.
Yeah, a good bit left.
No, we don't. Come on, let's hurry. We gotta close this very soon. I want to hear. I want to hear. You know what else Sussex coming on? Go ahead.
And how does that make you feel, given you have expressed numerous times that you do not want history to repeat itself?
Yeah, I don't want history to repeat itself. I think there's a lot of other people out there, the majority, that also don't want history to repeat itself. Through the disclosure process, I've discovered that some people want history to repeat itself, which is pretty dark.
That's quite a statement. Who do you think that is?
I'm not going to share it at this point. You know, I know all the names of the people that were involved in this process. And again, you know, you have to question, why wasn't I put through the same risk management board that everybody else was put through, including members of my family?
And you reject it not because you're no longer a working royal.
Sorry?
And you reject that it has nothing to do with the fact that you're no longer a working royal.
Whether I have an official role or not is irrelevant to the security needs that I would need. Let me rephrase that. Whether I have an official role or not is irrelevant to the threats, risks, and impact on the reputation of the UK if something was to happen. And again, that is proven by all of the examples that exist out there. So for me, having an official role was conditional on keeping security. But for everybody else, people who have chosen this life to enter into public office and then leave, get it for life, regardless of whether they have risk or threat to their name. And by the way, I agree with that. I think that is absolutely the right thing to do. That if you come in and you serve your country, even if it's a minimum of 4 years, that you get the protection that you require because of your public service. I was born into this position. It wasn't a choice. I've served my country for 35 years. I believe that I am still continuing to serve my country. Public service is my life. That is the dedication that will never change. And then all the other bits and pieces that are added to that. There are very, very real threats that exist out there. Some that are known about, some that have been withheld. And for people in power and responsibility of decisions to know that those threats and risks exist, but to turn around and say, well, because you don't have an official role, your life doesn't actually matter anymore. Well, you can imagine how I feel about that, but you can also imagine, not even imagine, that is the most illogical argument in the history of arguments.
And finally, just because you mentioned, your connection to your country, your public service, after this years-long battle, do you think your relationship has changed with the UK? Do you feel let down by your country?
That's a big question. At this point, I'm feeling very let down. It's the minority of people, especially those that read the tabloids and the press themselves. The press themselves have incited so much hatred towards myself, my wife, and even our children. That's hard to forgive. There are decisions that have been made. There are things that have happened since 2016, especially throughout my whole life. But let's just stick since 2016. There are things that have happened that I can now forgive. I have moved past that. I can forgive my family's involvement, my father's, my brother, and my stepmother. I can forgive the press to a large extent as well for so many things that have happened. What I'm struggling to forgive, and what I will probably always struggle to forgive, is that a decision that was made in 2020 that affects my every single day.
And again, this is from exactly what you were talking about the article, right? Because you can reach the place of forgiveness. And at some point, if you don't forgive, he will eat you alive. And very often, the forgiveness is not for those who had inflict the pain. It's for you, for yourself, to sort of let go. But how do you do that when every single day you wake up, every move you make have to be calculated, have to be precise, have to be planned? Which is go to the whole notion of what is freedom to someone when everything that you do, and it's something for many Black people, they understand that a little bit, because as a woman, if you're a Black woman, or if you're a Black man, for many of us, every time we go out, we have to think of, okay, if I drive, a cop stop me, I need to put my hand down. I need to not do this. I need to not do that. Or if I'm going to the store, maybe I need to dress up this way so people don't follow me. I need to do, like, sometimes it becomes very, because again, you understand a little bit what he's talking about, this feeling that every move that he makes must be calculating. And he's dealing with it in a very different level than anyone else does, because he promised to protect his wife, and he certainly wanted to protect his children because they too at risk, as he just say. And so he does not have the luxury. Well, he's able, we've seen him, sort of at a restaurant, we've seen him travel. All that has to be planned and pre-planned and planned and planned and planned and planned and planned again. And then hope for the best. So if you don't find a place where you go to just either release and be okay and said, okay, you know what? It is what it is. Whatever is going to happen. So I'm going to allow myself to live my life, at least for the moment that I'm here, enjoy today, which I feel like our Duchess is doing when we see her in her garden, when we seen her doing certain things. She needs to find a place of joy. And I will tell you, there's no better place if once you have a garden. To me, garden is the place where God lives. There is something about garden specifically for those who love going to, visit gardens, spend time in a garden, parks. There is something about being there where I feel the presence of God. There's so much to learn about yourself. There's so much to be admired. There's so much release that could come from being in a garden. And so when I looked at her, I completely understand what she's doing and what it's actually happening, because I find that same solitude when I go visit a botanica, or I go into a garden, someone garden and everything, and being there, I don't want to leave. There is something that happened that is just magical. And if you have your own garden, you know what I'm talking about. And so I think this is where we need to be very thankful and grateful for someone we admire, that we love, able to have that release, have to be able to say, you know what, there's nothing that I'm going to do that's going to change the outcome. Doesn't matter. Well, I am here. Let me enjoy. Let me allow my kids to know me. Let me create memories. And I think that's what the Duchess is doing. Living long-lasting memories and doing it on her own term, and letting people know who she is, and they can make their choice on who she is, not what other people write and make money and say this is the person that she is. As well as Harry. Tell the other side of the story that's very often not been told. Many of us would never know the true really story of how did King Charles get where it's at. I still don't know that woman. I still don't know the story of Margaret. No one ever told the other side of the story. You only know what's wrote about her. But I think it's what I think Harry and Meghan is changing. And for as much many people have known Diana, and there is a lot we still don't know. There's still a lot that we wish that we know. We have few bits and pieces. We're able to summarize it and make it what we believe it to be. We hear her words. But even there's so much allegedly, because she didn't have the freedom to actually really speak the way she would like to, because it was already pre-made that she's crazy. She's not to be believed. She's exaggerating. Or from what I understand, that, she's paranoid. And I think it is an opportunity, and this is what Harry and Meghan is doing. No, you're not going to get away by telling the world that we are being paranoid. You're not going to tell the world, that, I'm keeping your grandkids away from you. No, you're not going to tell people somehow that, we choose to walk away as they have done. Because all we wanted is to take care of ourselves as we continue serving you. And you didn't want that. And I think that's what he's doing. Let's move on.
And that is knowingly putting me and my family in harm's way. Everybody knew that they were putting us at risk in 2020. And they hoped that me knowing that risk would force us to come back. But then when you realize that didn't work, do you not want to just keep us safe? Whether you're the government, whether you're the royal household, whether you're my dad, my family, despite all of our differences, do you not want to just ensure our safety? And I'm calling for, the Home Secretary and the government to do a review of RAVEC. And I'm also asking for an R&B assessment that I haven't received since 2019.
Just because you spoke there about forgiveness, it sounds like the last step to repairing relations with your family is the security issue, by what you said there.
100%. Whatever noise has been created, whatever stories have been written, this has always been the sticking point. And, put yourself in my shoes. If you step back to try to create a different role, the same official role, but a different working relationship with the institution that you were born into for the sake of your wife and your own mental health and your child, which now, of course, a lot more has come out because I felt as though it needed to come out. The other side of the story needed to be told. God forbid anything should happen. And I don't regret that at all. But 2020, when that decision happened, I couldn't believe it. I actually couldn't believe it. I thought with all the disagreements and all of the chaos that's happening, the one thing that I could rely on is my family keeping me safe. And not only did they decide to remove my security in the UK, but they also signaled to every single government around the world not to protect us.
That part, it's tough to hear. I think many of the Sussex would understand and know that. But to actually really hear it, that kind of signal, it's a bit jarring. Why? Unless you're looking for an outcome that can be devastating to this man's family and everyone who loves him. That was very hard to actually, it's one thing that, we come to our own conclusion to things, but it's another to actually hear that. But I'm glad that he says it. Go ahead.
How are you feeling about this decision? Because clearly you have 2 children, Archie, Lilibet. They're not able to see their grandfather, their uncle, their cousins in a way that you feel is safe for them. So what's your feelings kind of moving forward? Is there any way that this could be resolved?
Firstly, I'm devastated. Not so much as devastated as with the loss that I am about the people behind the decision, feeling as though this is okay. Is it a win for them? Is it a win that, that I don't get the protection that the threats and risks and impact say that I should? I would hope they wouldn't consider it a win. I'm sure there's some people out there, probably most likely the people that wish me harm, consider this a huge win. But there have been so many disagreements, differences between me and some of my family. This current situation that has been ongoing for 5 years with regard to human life and safety is the sticking point. It is the only thing that's left. Of course, some members of my family will never forgive me for writing a book. Of course, they will never forgive me for lots of things. But, there is... I would love reconciliation with my family. There's no point in continuing to fight anymore. As I said, life is precious. I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff. But it would be nice to reconcile. As I learned through the First Nations throughout Canada, because of the Invictus Games, their goal in life was always truth and reconciliation. And I turned around to them in many conversations and I said, right, but reconciliation can't come without truth. Well, I've now found out the truth. I've shared some of it with you today. A lot of it exists out there, whether people choose to ignore it or not. So it would be nice to have that reconciliation part now. If they don't want that, that's entirely up to them.
And now that...
And that this is again very early in the show when I was talking about that reconciliation, that a lot of people misunderstanding why I feel like people are misunderstanding why Harry had to say that, because you could hear the headline. Oh my God, God forbid something happened to the king. He died with a broken heart. That he's Harry, they could have, accused him of killing the king, so to speak. That he didn't sort of, try to reconcile. He didn't bring the kids to see their grandparents. You could literally see the headline. But now, you can't say that. Because now he's putting the ball on their court. I want to reconcile, whether or not this is the truth from his part. The point that that's what he says. And I can understand that. If your father, your parents, because, it doesn't seem that, Harry keep, doesn't have really hate in his heart and wishes that, all those nonsense could just gone away and he didn't have to deal with it. Even not having a great in which I'm sure he knew that he will never have like this relationship that, he wish he could have. Even when he was in, he didn't have it. So what would make him even think that, he will have it, outside of it? I'm sure what he's talking about is that, hey, I would like to be there for my father. I like to, visit him sometime. I would like for him to know his grandkids. I would love for him to, to be able to visit him. Have some sort of, causal relationship. Because we know everything, it works by protocol. Just because you are the son of the king, that doesn't mean you have the right to see the king. Just like you didn't have the right to see the queen whenever you want to. I mean, we know that, he was living in the same sort of, ground with his brother, and allegedly he had never invited them to come over. They didn't really see each other as we often thought in the way they were selling us. They are the Titus brother. So I think what he is saying is that, look, at least the way I'm hearing it, I don't want to continue this if this man is suffering with an illness that he may not make it. And that he's in his old age, because we know what the headlines will be, that is his fault, and then they will turn on his wife that it's hold him for not being able to be there for his father. And I think that's what it was so important for him to use that exactly particularly word, conciliation.
Yeah, Marshall added this, that I appreciate that Harry tells that he wants to reconcile with them. He's leaving the ball in their court. This is how he's playing high-level chess and not shoots and ladders. This man is
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's go.
This court battle is over. Do you feel you will be able to approach your father and speak about some of those issues?
I mean, no, I don't think he would ever want to talk about it. I think he would just push it aside, and the argument will continue to be this is a government decision. It may well be a government decision, but how did they reach that decision? When the rabbit chair, the first place that they went to was the palace to understand what it is that the royal household or what the royal family want for me. I have never ever been allowed or offered to make my own representations. Not in 2020 and not for the last 5 years. And the new Ravet chair continues to avoid answering some very specific questions that I have. And one of your previous questions that I think is really important is this case-by-case basis. For me, and only me, there has to be a royal obligation in order to receive protection on UK soil. And I think that speaks volumes.
Thank you.
Exactly. Because that is really important. Because they will say, oh, he didn't come, he didn't this, he didn't that. We know what the headlines, we are accustomed with the headlines. And so now we know from his word and what he says, look, if I'm not there, if you don't see me, if I'm not a part of things, it's because I was not invited. Because now he put the court in there. Because now we will know if Harry or Meghan or any of those, they're not there, they cannot come back and say, oh, look at how he treats his healing father. So this is where we are. And that's why I said from the top, this is the most important record keeping interview that Harry could possibly have done to not just only protect his life, his children, and worst case scenario, that everything, the truth is out. And there's probably maybe in a way a sense of freedom. Now I don't have to not just worry what may happen to me, but worry that no one will ever know the truth. Now the truth is out there, on record. Not just any record, not any books, legal.
Yeah, and also it kind of goes to the point you were making at the beginning when you're talking about maybe how some of the Sussex squad see this and maybe think of the loss as being a negative thing, when in fact the court case having resulted in a loss in this fashion is actually what enabled this type of interview
for the truth to come out,
to take place, for the truth to come out, to actually go toward systemic change as opposed to just something acute, just something specific to Harry and his family.
But at the end of the day, I'm looking at it based on all the knowledge we now have. Maybe winning was not, how would I say that? I want to say this really well so it's not misinterpreted. It's almost was no longer really matter or understood that, you know what, the best was to have the truth out, because then if it was granted, then now how do you trust even that system that's giving you that security?
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? How do you now trust it? So maybe Harry didn't lose at all, because there's no guarantee just because he will have securities, things couldn't go wrong, so to speak. And how would he trust it? How would he trust his children? Maybe the point there, how we need to see that. By him went that direction, it forced at least some of the truth to be out in public now. And maybe that's why we need to interpret it, need to see it. It was never a loss at all. It is a win. It is a fight. It is putting the ball and forcing them to answer. And we see, based on, because I didn't see the report, I didn't see the releasing, I just hearing. So I don't like hearsay. I want to make sure that, I do my due diligence to find out. But based on, sort of what I've heard, that they had put a statement out and very quickly. So there's so much to impact. And at some point, we're going to be in a place where we're not constantly feeling like, sort of, oh my God, we can't breathe. But once things started calming down, people are going to have to be answer to these things. And so I think more than ever now, they need our love. They need our support. They need to know that, we are there for them, not telling them what to do or what we think they should do, or be mad at him, be upset at them, say we'll remove or sort of, thing just because we disagree, and understand that, we're dealing with two people who's doing the best they can and try to work the system in a way that not just for them, at least for their children. And as much we want the best for them, but what's best for us is not particularly best for them. And so I will hope that we understand what brought us here in the first place. If it was just to build your channel and that was the only way you were going to be noticed and you were going to move on, you're making a lot of money and you're doing other things and everything, well then, good on you, and you have accomplished that. But if you're a true supporter, there must be a reason. There must be something that's not settled with you why you support them. It needs to be more than just kind of like, now I'm going to control you as well. And the moment that, you step up and you do something that I disagree with, I'm coming at you. And I'm going to give everyone else that we know that who hate you and who's going to sort of, again, what, sort of Sophia, what from Coca-Cola, exactly what that conversation was about. I'm going to open that door to have people come at you. So I hope this is a moment that, we reflect. We understand this time, that time. Not just for ourselves, but for them. Was not a loss. This is not, I didn't feel like we lose the battle. I don't feel sort of deprived. I didn't feel none of that. What I feel like, it's a commander. What I feel like, it was a soldier doing his duty. So we'll move into verse and prayer, and then what do we have? There was a clip that I didn't play?
2.
What were they?
Security.
That's right. No, we cannot close up until, hearing from Harry, it's one thing, But I think there's two clips that I think is very important. One, which the Royal Sussex had played, which is the security thing. But I think I should play the last clip from the old security, because Royal Sussex did play that clip last night, and I'm sure a lot of people familiar with it. But let's play it. It's been known what he was saying was the truth. So let's play the old clip.
Head of UK counter-terrorism policing, Neil Basu held one of the most challenging jobs in the country. The highest-ranking ethnic minority officer in Britain, he was tipped for the very top job. You were in charge of royal protection. How would you characterise the threats that Meghan and Harry received?
Well, disgusting and very real. I've talked publicly for many years about the threat of extreme right-wing terrorism in this country. I've often been misquoted as taking my eye off the ball, as though I think that that was the biggest threat. I've never called it the biggest threat, but it was the fastest growing. You know, and my wonderful friend and counterpart at MI5 will tell you exactly the same thing, that when I started in CT in 2015... Counterterrorism, it was about 6% of our total workload. Certainly when I left 15, 16 months ago, it was over 20% of our workload.
But there were many serious, credible threats against Meghan, were there, emanating from the far right in this country?
Absolutely. If you'd seen the stuff that was written and you were receiving it, the kind of rhetoric that's online, if you don't know what I know, you would feel under threat all of the time.
So you were convinced that there was a genuine threat to Meghan's life on on more than one occasion, on several occasions?
We had teams investigating it. People have been prosecuted for those threats.
Exactly. I just think that, we know what he's saying, because, I mean, this is coming from high security, right? So we know what he was saying is the truth. Because even if you don't want to hear it from him, but hear it from the expert. And so as we closing, I want to share with you guys something very, very, very special. And if you are not next to your phone or next to the screen, if you could get to your phone, I'm going to want you to look at a picture that is very dear to me that I want to share with you guys. And the reason why I want to share it, because I want to make sure that I am able to never forget those who have come before us, those who are still here with us, and the path they had to walk, and how difficult, how it must have been. And they have been, some of them have been to the worst of worst and the challenges. And I wanted to have this reminder, because in our family, we are so privileged to have someone that stature, that magnitude, who's been through it all and still here with us. Is this woman. I think the first picture is that you're showing, let me see, is this woman. Can anyone right now guess how old is this beautiful, gorgeous woman?
How old in the picture or how old now?
Well, how old she is now. Can anyone guess, from the charts? Let's see if anyone...
Well, they're guessing how old she is now based on this picture?
Yes. How old do they think that she is?
Okay, we'll see who's in any of our codes.
Let's see who get it. Anyone? Nobody? No response.
We got 100 from Marshar.
Oh, very nice. Okay. Well, this beautiful woman just celebrated 2 weeks ago That was her at 108. She's now 110. So do you have the other picture? You don't have. No, that is 108. She's 110. You didn't have put the other picture. I gave you the other pictures. Well, she just celebrated her 110 years old last Wednesday. And so this woman have been through it all and have seen it all. 110. And I think over the week, the oldest woman, which is, I believe she was a nun from Brazil, 116, just passed away. And she still have able to have conversation, use restroom by herself, talking, very sassy, and will tell you why not. So, but it's a reminder for me. This is a woman who I've seen World War One, World War Two, Jim Crow, every fight that you could think of. Descendant of slave, who still present with us at 110 years old, beat cancer at 100. It's a reminder what a blessing to have someone like this, that you're able to have a conversation and see their face and know that, you know what, they have been to the worst of worst, and there's always will be good time ahead. And so I wanted to share that with you guys. Maybe next time we'll have her birthday picture, which I thought you had, George. You know,
bring it up now.
You do? You have it? You find it? Yeah. Let me see what picture you're showing. Yes, that was a picture the other week. We had a priest coming in and did, you know, a mass, which was absolutely beautiful mass and everything for her. But she walked. She get out of bed and she's very sassy. She does a prayer and she is wonderful. And it's like incredible to have someone that, you know, like that you're able to call and have a conversation and really a reminder, you know, that this time, this moment will pass and we'll be okay. And we'll fight and we'll continue fighting. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. 110 and going. So let's keep the hope alive. Let's know that for many people, they've been through worse. And we will be okay as long as we have each other. So Charles, can you please?
I can. So for the Bible verse today, we'll go back and talk a little bit and have this verse be related to betrayal, which we had talked about earlier in the service. So, and this is probably the most famous of betrayals. And it's Matthew 27, verses 3 and 4. When Judas, who betrayed him, saw that Jesus was condemned, he was seized with remorse and returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders. And he said, I have sinned, for I have betrayed innocent blood. What is that to us? They replied. That is your responsibility.
Amen. George.
For prayer today, we will actually be using something that some people might be familiar with. It's called Let Them.
That's right.
Let Them theory.
Before you go that, I would just say, please listen to what I believe. It could be a prayer, it could be a poem, it could be felt in this. And but let's stay together, guys. Let's keep each other in prayer. Let's put God in front of everything. Let's learn from this moment. This is our time. This is our struggle. This is our moment. But the sun will rise again, once more. So as I leave you guys, I want us to not feel like we've been defeated, we're tired, we're exhausted. Because we just celebrate very recently Easter, the meeting of Easter. We are now spring, where thing our revival like is alive again, flowers is blooming, and so this is life. We will have moments like that. And it's for good, because it's there to teach us. It's there for us to learn. And also not taking each other, not taking our lives for granted. And this is why, again, I share this picture. I share this story. There's so much story that I can tell you about this woman. And I'm grateful that I have, that I am to be connected with someone who have lived so much history that I can just go through and have a conversation, and able to have that conversation at 110. So I'm going to let George read this to you guys and share it with you guys as we leave tonight, and hopefully that we're able to be prepared and get our tea and our coffee and wait for Royal Sussex to come in. So George, take it away. Love win always.
There you go. It says, are you familiar with the let them theory? I'll tell you, the more I grow, the more I am okay with accepting the let them in my own life and relationships. Even family can mistreat and disrespect you. This is something that took me a very long time to learn. I used to tolerate a lot because I don't want to lose people. I learned the hard way that if they were really my people, they would never treat me like that. Don't make the mistake of being so understanding and forgiving that you overlook the fact that you're being repeatedly disrespected. Let them be upset. Let them judge you. Let them misunderstand you. Let them gossip about you. Let them ignore you. Let them be right. Let them doubt you. Let them not like you. Let them not speak to you. Let them run your name in the ground. Let them make you out to be the villain. Whatever it is that people want to say about you, let them. Kindly step aside and let them. The hard truth is they know how much they are hurting you. They just simply don't care. They did it knowing it could cause them to lose you. They did it anyway. People that love you care about how they make you feel. The end. Let them go. There will be people that would rather lose you than be honest about what they've done to you. Let them go. The lack of respect was the closure. The lack of apology was the closure. The lack of care was the closure. The lack of accountability was the closure. The lack of honesty was the closure. Let them go. Make the decision to no longer sit at tables where you might be the topic when you get up. Let them go. You can still be kind. You can even still love them deeply. But do it from the distance they created in their words and actions. Access to you is a privilege they have proven they can't be trusted with. Let them go. You don't need to tell your side of the story. God already knows it. Let God fight the battle for you. Let them go. It's taken me a long time to get there. Sleepless nights, countless tears, managing a range of emotions filled with anger, disappointment, confusion, and deep hurt. Lots of self-reflection, self-preservation, deep prayer, and seeking wisdom from those much wiser than me. If you are struggling with this, please know that you are not alone. We will never understand why hurt people, but we can do the hard work to grow ourselves, because healed people do in fact heal people. Don't you dare let them steal your joy. Don't you dare let them steal your light. Don't you dare let them steal your peace. You are in control of that. Hold tight to what you can control and release your grip on what you can't control. Let them go.
Amen. So I leave you guys. Have a good night. May God bless you all. If God willing, we will be each other Monday next Sunday. We are back.
It is Monday already.
Exactly. It's already Monday again. And I can't wait to hear and listen to Royal Sussex. So thank you so much for waiting for us. Thank you for being patient with us. And thank you for just hang out with us for such a long hours. And yeah, love win. And let's keep our girls, our boy in prayer and pray for them. And let's be with them. Let's work that journey with them because it's bigger than them. It's for all of us. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. See you later.